More leads, more sales. Here's how right now. This is the Close the Deal podcast with Ewell Smith.
I want to welcome you to Close the Deal podcast. I have a guest here that solves a problem that just about every marketing agency, every small business owner, and every big business is wrestling with right now. And that is figuring out how to get found online. And this gentleman is the founder of Local SEO Help. And he is an expert, one of the foremost experts for SEO help in the franchising world, working with tons of franchises across the United States, helping them get found in their local markets. And he also has a client called Build Your Dreams. Now, you probably have never heard of them, but they're the ones that are beating up on Tesla. That's how significant his business is. Lonnie, welcome to the show. And exactly who is Build Your Dreams, BYD?
Well, I mean, thanks for having me, first of all. But yeah, BYD is just an unknown company that's probably one of the biggest in the world. They, they're known more recently as an electric vehicle manufacturer, but behind the scenes, they're doing batteries, solar. They do electric buses, they do monorails, they do, tons of different things in all these verticals around the world. And that's really where they built their business. But I think the core of their business became their execution of the battery side of the business. So they really made batteries efficient, and that led them into then vehicles like cars. And they have a lot of cars they sell.
Oh, they sell a ton of cars. That's just not here in the U.S. That's why people don't know. But people do have seen them probably in social media. They got the SUV that can literally float through drive through the water, which is kind of wild. And they've got the the hypercar that can do a dance and jump and things that no car really needs to do. But they created that. All right. So Lonnie, I appreciate you being on the show. First question I want to ask you: you've been an entrepreneur a long time. What's the biggest challenge you've faced, and how do you overcome that?
Well, I mean, I think with any entrepreneur, a lot of people have this idea that you're going to start a business and you're going to have your foot on the desk and you're going to smoke your cigar and drink your whiskey and just enjoy life. And the reality is you're the only one that's going to have to figure stuff the F out without being crass. But it's just having that ability and that determination to figure things out. Because, if you think that you're going to build a team around you and then they're going to do that, it's probably unlikely. So you're the one that's the glue that figures things out. And I think, especially with something like SEO, what I do, I mean, there's no structured environment that teaches you that. I mean, now there's people that train and there's little courses and stuff that'll get you in the right direction. But when I was doing this 15 plus years ago, when I started, which there's probably longer, I need to do the math one day, but there was nothing to turn to. I literally had a physical book where they had an introduction to it, but it took me many years of just testing and trying and, doing things, and then you figure it out. And I literally built a career around that, and that's carried me through all this evolution of Google, essentially. But like any business,
trying to
I think that's correct.
And doing the jobs that you didn't think you'd end up doing.
Well, all the jobs you didn't, you do everything that you do all the jobs that you think somebody else is always going to do. It ends up being you. So you just have to, understand that that's what you're getting into when you're being an entrepreneur.
One of my favorite, I had a guy by the name of Bill West on this podcast, and he used to work for AT&T. He had 16,000 employees. Then he went and started his own business, and he's like, I went from 16,000 employees to taking out the trash.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly right. Exactly right.
All right. Who or what are you grateful for before we get into unpacking what you do?
Well, I mean, when it comes to business, I mean, I got into franchising because I was approached by some franchisees. I mean, prior to working in the franchise systems, I had a lot of business clients across all walks of life, all spectrums, all industries, and never really dabbled in the franchise system. And somebody referred a franchisee to me, which, looking back, now that I've worked with brands and the full spectrum of franchising, I was that annoying agency that was knocking on the door of the franchise brand and the franchisee saying, you need to listen to this guy. And So anyway, I guess I appreciate the fact I was trusted first by the franchisee to help them and gave them the ability to like,
Open the door.
or to open the door to franchise brands. And then again, I've been inside franchise brands now, and I've been the one on the other side where the franchisee's going, hey, I want you to talk to my local marketing guy, and like the brands, they usually don't want to hear that, like they're like, they have their preferred vendors. It's a bigger animal than what a local marketer usually understands. So the fact they actually like listened to me, somebody did, was something I appreciate, because that just led to everything else we're up today. So that's probably the one thing that I would appreciate a lot, this stage of my career.
Yeah, they really that cracked the door for you. And I mean, you just got off a tour almost, so like a mini tour in Omaha and visiting some of the franchise systems that are out in that market, speaking to their new candidates that are coming in, so they can learn the importance and the value of SEO, because without it. So let's talk about SEO. A lot of people, it's like, what is the SEO? So from the very basic level, but it's essential for every business to be found and be first, or at least in the top fold of the page on Google, and especially if they can do it organically. What are the biggest mistakes? Let's address the 5 biggest mistakes that you see people make, or you hear that, or you come in and correct that people make. And I also want to talk about AI and how that is affecting the landscape, because it's changing the landscape right now. So how can people be proactive with regards to that? And you're on the cutting edge of that because you're dealing with it every day, and work with, So let's look at the 5 big issues you see. How can they correct them? And then we'll go from there.
Well, when it comes to the issues, I get asked the same questions, or I inherit the same problems across all the brands I work with. So these are definitely very common issues, but there's brand level issues and there's like franchisee level issues.
Okay.
So let's just start with the brand level issues. I mean, usually the first time a franchise brand reaches out to me is when they did a website redesign and they wake up a month later and all their website rankings are down. They're like, what happened? They moved to a big franchise platform. I mean, I don't want to name names, but there's a lot of franchise marketing agencies that then provide a franchise platform, web platform, marketing platform, and it's part of their offering to like move a website to that. And you think you're getting to the scalable system that's going to save the world, and then all your rankings drop. So like what do you do in that case is it's a big question, because once you're invested and once you're down that path, and once Google has picked up your new website, it's really hard to undo those problems. So one of the big mistakes is doing a migration and not having like a third-party consultant like myself, like at least eyeballing the end result before it goes live and saying, hey, raise a red flag here. And I mean, this has happened 5 times this year to me. I mean,
holy cow.
I had one brand that, thankfully, they got me right involved before they went live, and it would have destroyed the rankings, and they leaned on that heavily. And we stopped the project and had to have the whole site rebuilt again before they actually went live. And so like, this is a real problem. And then I've seen the other side of it where it's already live. I don't want to name names, and the website just plummets. All the 100 franchisees lose traffic, lose leads, and like everybody's pointing at each other, and it's like this big platform shift. And the platform is like, well, this is more scalable, right? So it's like the scaling at the cost of results is what I say a lot, right? Like every brand's like, I want to scale. I'm like, well, sure, you get all these things that make your life more efficient, but like at what cost? Like if your results aren't there, you can't. Scale doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter. So I see, the evolution into bigger platforms for brands that are growing, causing problems as well. So,
and I could see that even for a small mom and pop business, same thing happening to them. They move over to a different platform, and all the work they put in just goes bye-bye.
Yeah, it happens to everybody. No, this is 100 times in my career. But I guess the problem with the franchise brand is that it affects so many people, so many businesses. And once you've dig in that hole, it's hard to dig out of it. I mean, it could take months to turn it back around once the damage is done. So, I mean, you might be thinking that, I'm going to go move into this platform has 100 franchise brands that use it, and big multi-million-dollar agencies, and they're going to have it all figured out.
No.
And then it's just destroyed. And I'm like, how is this even? I mean, I even wonder how it's possible with some of these agencies that have, huge teams, huge retainers, huge everything. And they're just destroying brands. And so it's a huge problem. And then they go, okay, Lonnie. And I mean, honestly, I had a meeting this morning, and that's what the conversation was. I'm not even joking. Like,
Wow.
From the first thing, it says, "Oh, we changed our website over to this thing and this new design, this new platform because, now we're evolving and like everything dropped." So I'm like, well, this is not the first time I've heard this. So give me your as we're talking right now, I'm getting emails. They're giving me access to their website, so I got to go analyze everything and uncover the problem. And figure out if I can fix it or not. Yeah. So those are a couple issues. Any questions on that before I talk about some of the others?
No, that's huge because I didn't know that's where you were going to start with or go there at all. But I think about it because I've migrated a website before, and I'm like, man, am I going to lose all the stuff I put into it? And I did. I lost some of it because I didn't know what I was doing. I was doing it myself. This is a few years back. But yeah, let's go to the next thing.
I think the other thing would be like with new brands that are smaller, like again, same type of thing applies. They're thinking about growth, they're thinking about scalability, they move to a new platform. They don't know the website structure. Now I don't want to get too technical, but some brands think they should give their franchisees their own website, completely independent of their branded site. And then other brands, they use things called subdomains or subdirectories to create websites for their franchisees. All three of those have pros and cons. I definitely do not recommend giving franchisees their own websites. It just dilutes resources. Like the franchisee, it's like they're starting from scratch. The purpose of a franchisee to be part of a franchise system is to leverage authority of that brand, and you can't leverage it unless you're on the brand's website. So I definitely recommend a subdomain structure or a subdirectory structure. But if I'm have my choice, a subdirectory structure is the one that I would lean on because Google just seems to appreciate that a little bit more than the subdirectory, and the benefits are a little bit higher. Without getting too technical here, sorry, going down the rabbit hole a little bit, but
no, that's good to consider though, because we, you and I saw each other. We met early in the year, and then we ran into each other in Scottsdale at a conference for brand new young entrepreneurs starting franchises. And they probably half of them probably haven't even thought about the website, 5 websites deep for 5 different franchises yet. They're still working on the 1 and the 2, maybe 10. What happens when somebody has gone down that path and they let 7 or 8 people have their own website?
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that. In January, I had a brand reach out to me, and they had 15 franchisees, and they all had separate websites. And I said, I'm not working with you because it's that big of a problem. I mean, and it's there's a whole spectrum of it. Problems like managing it as a brand, monitoring everything. If you have to update one website, you got to go update all 15 of them individually. The cost of SEO, like let's say I'm working with a franchisee, because they're tied to a franchise brand, I might charge them $700 to $1,000 a month or something like that. But if they have their own website, they might as well just be their own small business, because I got to charge them $2,000 or more a month to get the same result that I would get for them if they were on the franchise brand's website, because
they piggyback on that. They piggyback on the momentum of
exactly.
The one you said it. Yeah. Okay.
And if they have their own website, it doesn't matter your brand name. It's website based. Google analyzes websites, and they're not going to get any benefit because your brand name is the same as some franchise brand. If you got to be connected to their website to get that benefit in Google's eyes. So that's something where, I mean, I don't even know who. I mean, I know who I was talking to in January. I don't know if they actually took my advice and started migrating everybody into one brand like I recommended, but I it's too much heavy lifting, and they needed to do it in-house. And that's where I was like, you know what? I can't, I feel bad to even charge them how much it would cost to do that, because they don't understand getting access to Google business profiles, convincing the franchisees to give up their websites. Like there's just like so many things that it's a year's project just to get 15 websites corralled. And I'm not here for that. We're happy to help, but it just doesn't make financial sense. and
Okay.
the amount of energy with the lack of benefit
Mhm.
during that process, I don't want to be.
That makes sense.
Uh,
That makes perfect sense. I get it. What's the next one? Next big thing?
oh yeah, so I guess, and the last thing on this is all franchise brand based, and then I have a couple quick
That's
ones on
perfect.
franchisee side. But on the
Okay.
brand side, I inherit brands. I mean, I'm talking to a couple right now, and again, they're working with big franchise marketing agencies, and
Mm-hmm.
I start, I always want to get a lay of the land before I have early discussions with them, and I go look at their content, their national content now, like,
Mm-hmm.
they're talking about whatever industry they're in or the subject matter that they're focusing on, their topic,
Mm-hmm.
and all I see is fragmented content. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
like just like so like throwing darts, right? They're like, oh, we should talk about this today, and then we should talk about that today, and I'm like, and Google wants you to be, if they're gonna respect you as an expert, when I say you, it's either you as a person or you as a brand or the
Mm-hmm.
two together. They want to see your body of work, and you need to make sure you're covering all bases of your expertise to then be considered an expert, right? You can't just pick this topic and that topic and that topic, and Google's going to consider you respected, even
Yeah.
if those three topics are the only that are valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Google wants to see the other 10 that are related to those topics as built together, and then they go, okay, this website is authority around this
That
topic.
makes sense.
And so, but when I see these other agencies, they're just like, oh, we need a blog, because they don't have this big strategy that you got to be considering. I inherit it and I go, well, I'm not surprised this isn't working, like, because Google
Yeah.
doesn't respect you yet. And that means you're trying to push up one blog that's
Mm-hmm.
not connected to you being an authority yet. So that's lack of strategy at the national level
Yeah.
is something I see a lot. And then I guess, I don't know, you know, the other thing is they don't leverage. I mean, brands, like, they have this idea, especially founders that are experts.
Mm-hmm.
They start building a franchise brand and they try to disconnect from the brand, and they want the brand to stand on its own. But Google wants you. They want to know who's behind the brand. They want to know
Yeah.
who is the expert. So it's like you can write content and stuff on your website about these subjects, and you can get yourself a decent long ways with doing that. But if you can actually feature a person who's the expert and they have credentials and
Mm-hmm.
experiences that they can share, it's folded into their content.
Mm-hmm.
Google really loves that. And so I don't see a lot of brands featuring their experts properly. And it's on two fronts. One, they should be the authors of this content,
Mm-hmm.
but then two, how you feature that expert and connect them into the website and tell Google this person is the expert of this website. I mean, this is very evident. Think about medical information. Like Google, with AI, I know we're going to talk about AI in a minute, but with AI, I can create a 1,000-page website around any topic on the planet. You name it.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the weekend, I could have a 1,000-page website. But Google's like, well, how can I trust that Lonnie is going to talk about,
Yeah.
I don't know, chronic headaches or
Mm-hmm.
something more severe like cancer? And because I used AI to create all this stuff, who knows if it's right? So Google doesn't trust content unless unless the person behind it is an expert,
Mm-hmm.
especially in medical and law and finance and all these verticals that actually will hurt people. Because if all of a sudden Google ranks a website for around these topics and there's false information, you're ruining people's lives. So with that in mind, Google wants to see a person connected with the website before they give full respect to it. And brands seem to want to disconnect from that. Like they think this is a brand. I'm like, well, but you do this thing, right?
Yeah.
You're a med spa or you're a men's health clinic. Like, who's the doctor behind this that's like leading the charge with testosterone and
Mm-hmm.
stem cells or whatever it may be? Like, Google's not going to trust you unless they know who's pushing this agenda. So that's another thing that I see a lot of brands think they're being a brand, but they're actually hurting themselves by disconnecting.
That makes all the sense in the world. Yeah, and Google knows. I mean, it's remarkable how it can tell that it's AI written, but then if it's not connected to a person, then they have nobody to point the finger at to, so it's not going to rank. Correct?
Well, and so exactly right. And so and that leads into, which we'll talk about in a minute, is like, this is critical for AI. AI also doesn't trust content because they actually only trust people. They don't care about a brand.
Wow.
So now, if you don't,
someone who's got the podcast, right? It knows me. It knows I'm interviewing people, so it trusts that I am the person that's behind this brand of
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they'd want to connect you with a brand, like the brand that you'd be representing. Then the brand would get the rub from you, but like it's not the other way around. So if you're not connected to the website that AI is featuring in the content, then there's less likely they're going to feature that content. They're going to go find somebody else that has a person behind it and feature their content because they trust that person's an expert because of the credentials that are being outlined. So
that makes sense.
But and then they want to see you everywhere, right? I mean, the fact that you're on multi mediums actually adds validity that you're an expert because you're talking about things on a website, on social media, on podcasts. So like, there's also variety that comes into play, and that's like validation in Google's eyes that, okay, now we can feature this web content, that's here. So there's a lot of, we're getting ahead of ourselves on the AI thing. I'll talk about that in more detail in a minute, but let me just talk about the franchisee side. If this is what all this matters is, all brands care about, agencies like myself and brands are aligned. We're just trying to help franchisees get results. And so the things they do for brands ultimately drips down into how it benefits franchisees. And so one of the problems I see, and again, I can name there's so many, this happens every day for me, is I'll look at a new brand that I'm talking to potentially work with. And again, they all work with these known agencies, and I analyze the content, and I have tools that tell me how high quality the content is from a SEO perspective. So part of it's from my experience, but I get these tools to kind of like tell me what they think, and it helps me analyze things. And those tools often, I could probably go back 10 presentations proposals that I've given to brands, and I screenshot these scores, and they're always 50 out of 100, 55 out of 100, 60 out of 100. And because these brands don't have real experts, not say brands, these agencies don't have real experts in there. So they're doing a version of SEO, and technically they're doing SEO. It's just not advanced enough to get you to number one. Like, then this is the problem with SEO. It is. And the challenge with brands is they don't know, they trust these agencies. They're like, yeah, you guys you have all these brands you work with. I trust you too. And then, they do an optimized page. And then guess what? The page that's just even at 50 out of 100 score is going to go from 3 to 2 and climb to 2. The problem arises is it doesn't break through a plateau. There's a ceiling. If it's not optimized properly to the extent of what it should be, it's never going to get to number one. And like you said earlier in this conversation, if you're not above the fold in the top 5, you're not going to make $1. So all this investment to be on the bottom of page 1, you're not going to make any money that's going to justify that investment. So I would say, unless your agency can get you to number 1, don't even waste $1 on it. In fact, there's a very popular CMO influencer in the franchise space. I don't want to name names, but she even says, I don't recommend SEO to anybody. I said, well, because you've never worked with anybody that actually can get somebody to the top 3 where the money's at. So I don't blame you for not recommending it because you've never seen it happen, because these guys are doing basic stuff. And that's the problem I see out there. So, it's never gonna get you number 1. So the franchisees are just like, technically it checks the SEO box. They're doing the things that are like SEO. It's just not good enough. I don't know how else to say it. There's a lot more advanced stuff you can do. So, and they also, because of scale, they use templates. So like, again, these big platforms, they want to be able to launch franchisees. They want to have everybody have the same stuff. So they create these SEO templates, which are the microsites. And that basic version, which is the 50 out of 100, is getting deployed across all these franchisees, and none of them are getting there. And so, and frankly, then they don't touch the website after that. So from my perspective, when we're doing those, we got to scale. So we got to do templates. But when I'm doing templates, I'm trying to get an 80 out of 100 score. So that means I'm going to get closer to the number 1 for the franchisees. But I'm doing these very granular, intricate things that are finding the little wins that you can get. But then once that website's deployed for the franchisee, the last 20% is you have to actually go to that page for that franchisee and localize it properly. And so every location is going to have little variances. So you can't rely on the template. You got to go in there and be able to tweak it. And a lot of platforms are like, no, we can't support that. We're just templated system. We're doing the scale. They keep saying scale, right? And I'm like, again, it goes back to scaling at the cost of results. Okay. Well, you can scale to what? To number 5, where there's no leads. Go ahead, scale the fifth spot.
Yeah.
So like if that's where the franchisees, they're trusting the brands are trusting these agencies are saying we're doing SEO, and then they hit the plateau 2 years down the road. They're all sitting on the bottom of page 1, top of page 2. They're going, keep waiting. Eventually Google's going to get there. And I'm just shaking my head going, nope, you hit your ceiling. These other 5 people have done that other 20%. And that's why they're in the top 5, and you're never going to get there. And so that's the problem.
That makes sense. Oh, wow. Okay. Any other ones you want to hit on for the individual franchisee? Okay.
2 quick ones. I mean, one on SEO, a lot of these agencies are just doing Yext business directories, and they call that link building. So when it comes to SEO, there's what you do on the website. There's a technical aspect, the content that I've already talked a lot about, and then there's what happens on the rest of the world of the internet. And so they just think, oh, we're just going to sign up for Yext. We're going to get 60 business directories, and we're done. That is not going to get you to number 1 either. And so, we do some local link building and have some strategies that are a little more granular, and it's not as scalable, which is why these other agencies don't do it, but it's what that last 20%. That's why we win, And so that's something that as issues I find. And the very last one I'll say is, brands do not put enough emphasis on reviews. Now I say that, and you've probably heard brands and podcasts and things as reviews. It's still not enough. I mean, I was talking to a CEO of a brand yesterday, and I was telling her, I was like, the floor for a franchisee is 20 reviews. Until you got 20, I don't care what industry you're in, until you get 20 reviews, you're not even going to get it. No matter how good you are at SEO, Google's not going to respect that location. Now, once you're at 20, then they're like, okay, all this good SEO stuff we're going to give it some juice. But then they want to see consistent reviews. It's all about recency bias. Like if you don't have constant reviews coming in, that builds your momentum. I mean, you can launch a franchisee into the stratosphere in 6 months if you're getting 100 reviews in that time period. So if I was a brand,
really good to know.
I would be putting all my energy into strategies that are getting my franchisees reviews, to the point where I'm going to build it into my scorecard. I'm going to build it into my operation manual, where their techs and their teams are incentivized to push reviews. Otherwise, if they just leave it open for chance, we asked for reviews. I go, that's not good enough. Like you need to make sure that you're asking 100 times. You need to make sure your techs are incentivized so they can make sure they don't forget. Like you can't just sit around and wait, because your competition is gonna constantly be fighting this battle, and you're never gonna overtake them. So if I were a brand, I would put an entire operation manual together around reviews, and I would make it a KPI that I measure for every
single attendee that goes to Springboard or Young Conference needs to listen to this podcast so they can get these things right from out the gate.
All this leads into, like, your question in the beginning about AI. So you have to understand that in the 15 plus years I've been chasing the Google algorithm, right? I mean, in the beginning I was behind the algorithm, and then there's a certain point you get better and better and better, and then you can stay in front of it, and then you just got to ride that wave through the last 10 years, which is the only difference between success and not success is being one step ahead of it, or you're unsuccessful by being one step behind it. I know this probably has it backwards here, but you get the idea. So now, I'm jogging, right? And I'm staying in front of it. And every year I'm evolving my strategy and doing things differently, staying in front of it, keeping a pulse on how Google's changing things. It's always been these minor changes, but guess what? 3-4 years ago, AI starts coming in the picture, which right now everybody's talking about it, but this was something that our community and the SEO community was aware of 3 or 4 years ago, because we knew it was heading here. Well, guess what? That wave starts moving faster, and I'm not a runner. I mean, I now I gotta be sprinting to stay ahead of this thing, and I'm at this point I feel like I'm ahead of it, but like I got to keep running, and I got to find a way to run faster, because that's really what we're dealing with right now, and there's a lot of unknown in that. And I sit in these conferences, and I'm on LinkedIn, and these other agencies are like getting up and doing presentations about AI, and they're pretending like they got this all figured out. They all are, this is what we do, and I'm just like, and I can just read between the lines, they want to give the impression they got it figured out. So you have confidence in them and keep paying them to do this stuff, or maybe turning to them. I'm the first to tell you that I've been running in front of this algorithm for a career, and I've been running in front of AI for 2 or 3 years, and I barely got it figured out. But I'll tell you what I do know.
Okay.
And I don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, that's probably the scariest part is if this speeds up, none of us, I don't care who you are,
Yeah.
but they're not going to stay ahead of it. Now, the challenge here is 90% of franchise marketing agencies are the jack of all trades.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the master of one. So the chances of them sprinting in front of that tidal wave is zero because they don't have that person who's so deep down the rabbit hole of SEO that knows how to stay in front of that thing. So I fear for these agencies that are selling SEO and selling the dream of AI that say that they are in front of it. They're probably not. And I'm not saying I am, but I'm have, I think, a better chance of staying in front of that than the rest. Now, with that said, there's not a lot of differences between what we already do in the SEO space that is different than what AI is looking for. Okay. A lot of the same things, top content. That's how you position yourself as an expert. Third-party validation. So this is where we're doing digital PR and we're getting our brands and the founders of our brands featured on different publications, franchise publications, industry publications. I mean, I have a founder that's going to be interviewed by a news company in Atlanta Tuesday, and that's maybe not an SEO play, but that's an authority play that then ends up on a news website, right? So like, it's just about being seen as a variety of places. So all these things is what Google is looking for anyway, but they're also the same things that we're correlating with what AI is looking for. Now let me give you a few differences. AI, think about content. I told you a minute ago that I can build a 1,000-page website in the weekend, right? And there's people doing that. I mean, you don't even know. So think about Google. All of a sudden, 3 years ago, when AI starts coming into the picture, they get this swell of content because guess what? Everybody can produce content way more efficiently now, and content becomes a commodity.
Yeah.
So when content's a commodity, and there's guys out there that are building 100 websites about roofing, how does Google trust who's the authority on roofing when there's franchise brands that are roofers that have 100, 200 pages of content about roofing, but somebody can build a 1,000-page website about roofing?
They're gonna have to.
How does Google? Go ahead.
I'm going to say I'm thinking, how do you get yourself out there in other mediums?
That's exactly. You just nailed it. And so now Google says they reduce, Google and AI are then reducing the reliance on leaning on content now. And they start saying, I need third-party validation. I need to know that this brand that is.
They interviewed in the news. They wrote a book.
Exactly.
They got their own YouTube channel and on and on and on.
Variety. They're being featured on other websites that are authoritative, all those things. So they're really looking for a variety of things to validate that this person is out there. They're in the community. They're being seen. They're being quoted, and some of those in terms of backlinks. So Google is heavily dependent upon, like I mentioned a minute ago, a founder of ours is going to be on a news thing. What I care about is that news channel is going to then put a backlink to his website. But AI doesn't need that. Google does, because that's how their algorithm measures things. But AI is better at like reading the transcript of the news article and picking the name out and the subject matter out and applying that towards the authority of that brand and that founder. So now the backlink is less important, but getting yourself out there is more important. So, and the variety is important. You can't just do a podcast and that's your only medium. Like, your podcast needs to be everywhere and on YouTube. You need to transcribe your podcast and put it on your website. Then you need to put it on LinkedIn. You need to get people on other websites to feature you, and your podcast, and then you need to get yourself out there and get your credentials kind of like a resume on Google or on AI, so they can read all about you and connect all the dots of you as a professional and what you're an expertise in. So that's where the AI stuff comes into play. Again, it's just an extension of what we've already been doing. So doing all the things right is the foundation. But
do you see it? I see Google still being a dominant player the next 5 years, at least.
Oh yeah,
without question. What do you forecast with all this?
Well, I mean, Google is AI now. I mean, they have their own AI models, so they're going to be one of the big ones, just like ChatGPT, and Apple's coming into the market. I mean, and there's relevance. So there's a handful of ones that are going to end up leading the pack, but they're all just going to be fighting for the top. But now, the reality is, so we just recently converted all of our dashboards and we started adding AI data. Now, that's one of the challenges right now is there's not really a lot of great tracking for AI. So, I mean, think about it. When Google, we would type in roofing company and we get roofing companies. In AI, are you typing in roofing company anymore? No. I actually just talk right into my computer now and I give it 4 paragraphs of context because I want a specific roofing company that does a specific type of roof that has a certain amount of reviews. So when I ask a question, I'm not just saying roofing company, I'm asking for the roofing company that fits me the best. So I fill it with context. I'm not in Google and then ChatGPT and I start typing and now I can't type as fast as my brain is thinking what I want. And I've learned that I get the best answers from ChatGPT when I give it lots of context. And so that's where I just started evolving to just talking, just like I am now. Clearly I can talk, so I can really get it all out. And then I hit send, and then I get this much more valuable reply that saves me 20 questions instead I do it all in one shot. So, but think about that now. Everybody has a personalized answer. And there's no data. No one's searching for roofing company. The reason why I can show you reports about roofing companies, I'm just using as an example, is Google will tell me that 8,000 people a month search roofing company. But AI, no one's doing it, searching that way. Searching is evolving. How people are searching for things is changing because of AI, which is making it even more difficult for guys like me to track or anticipate or optimize for one keyword. I need to optimize for the entire depth of what somebody should be looking for and the context and the alignment and the intent. Like, what's my intention? Like when I'm asking questions, when I search for roofing company, am I looking to hire a roofing company? Do I want repair? Do I want metal roofs? Do I, if I just type in roofing, does that mean I want to do it myself? Right. I mean, I don't know, but like all that context is kind of lost, but like in ChatGPT, we're evolving to being more intent based and context based in our searches, which makes my life easier. All right. So I'm going down the rabbit hole, but when it comes to tracking, it makes it hard to track that because it's so just open-ended.
Now you're going to be you're in the forefront of all this. We're all sitting here in the back room right now, just trying to figure out how to make the right prompt.
I know. Well, yeah, that's speaking to that. I mean, I'm in a lot of groups where these guys are writing prompts that are supposed to help with marketing and stuff. And the prompts, 3 sentences are like, hey, steal my prompt. It's great for, differentiators or copywriting or whatever. And I'm going, geez, if I pull up my prompt list, I have one prompt that's 54 pages.
Holy
one cow. Prompt. But
that's crazy.
I'm having to do crazy intricate stuff. And like, that's where this divide is.
And that's what separates you from everybody else. That's
well, I like to think so, or maybe I'm just an overthinker.
No, not at all. No, I get it. I understand. I can see what you're doing completely. That's
so as far as my point in tracking for AI is, well, I mean, I have a brand, I don't remember the exact numbers, but like they get like 10,000 visits a month and 15 came from ChatGPT, right? Yeah. I mean, so we're far and away from it dominating anything at this point. So there is a runway here, and people, there's so much of the population that, like my dad, he's like, I keep telling him, just check ChatGPT. And he's like, what's that? How do I do that? Like they just has no idea how to utilize things like that. So.
That is very true. I mean, and we're as fast as AI is running, we're human nature's creatures of habit, and Google is what we've been brainwashed for the past 20 years since the early 2000s, I guess, to go to Google. So we're still Googling.
But it is affecting things, though. I mean, I'll tell you, last thing on this topic is traffic for our clients is still, when I say traffic, it's not the right word, impressions, visibility in Google, in AI. We can see that we're still being seen. But what's different, and this started probably 4 or 5 months ago, is the people are actually getting their answers from AI, and they're not actually going to websites as much anymore. So you still need, as a brand, you still need to be seen, because that gives you a shot at somebody then searching for your brand and calling you or calling your franchisee or going into a location. But you're not going to, many people are actually clicking on the website and reading anything because they're getting what they need from the chat. The answers, the context, even the pricing and everything.
Unless it's a tool, they have to use.
Unless it's a tool, correct. And so we're actually seeing clicks and traffic go down, but visibility is going up. So there's this alligator effect. I don't know. I can't do this, but you get the idea. And it's like, that's scary because, we're so used to, brains don't know what to do with that. They're like, well, does that mean you guys are doing a bad job? I'm like, no, it means the search is evolving. We're actually doing a good job because you're being seen still. And the website, I can't control that people don't want to go to the website to get the answer anymore because they got it from AI.
And if their website
from your website,
and if their website wasn't there, they would become.
They wouldn't even be there.
They'd be a ghost.
So that's the challenge. I think the biggest thing I fear is emerging brands that have no authority, no backbone, no anything that they're the ones who guys like me need to figure this out for. And I've made a career of figuring out how to get a new brand into Google and visible. So this is just AI, just an extension of that. So I have a lot of confidence that I'm going to have all those boxes checked and strategy going. I'm already doing a lot of things that are helping, but that's where I think we're going to see a huge change in agencies and whether they're able to figure this out or not. If they're not, who's going to suffer? Franchisees for emerging brands, and that's my fear.
Man, we've come a long way since the late 90s, where you had to submit your name and domain to them to manually approve to go into the registry.
I remember those days. Those days.
All right, my man. Well, this has been eye-opening in a lot of ways and very insightful. And appreciate, Lonnie, you coming on the show. And call to action. How do people find you for your? I mean, do they type in Local SEO Help? Is that how they find you? How do people find you?
I mean, I get them to our agency website, but I mean, the franchise community is on LinkedIn from my perspective. So I would just say, find me on LinkedIn, connect with me. Happy to talk to anybody, ask me questions. I'm an open book. I regularly get on calls with people to have a conversation and get off with no intention.
Yep.
I even had a brand today. Like, well, how do we get a retainer going? I'm like, oh, let me get some answers back. Let me get some things going. Let me give you some advice, and then we'll see where it goes. So happy to be part of the community and just give back as much as I can, especially with emerging brands that are just like really like
they
in this
need
weird position and have less resources.
They need you 100%. Well, I'll put your LinkedIn. We still get some traffic. Right, so at least for right now, we rank #1 on Google for Close the Deal, which is pretty cool.
Well,
yeah,
it is really good.
That took a little while to get there, but we figured out how to do that. All right, so we'll have you on. We'll have your credentials, your website, and your LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn link to back to you, and people can find you there. Lonnie, I appreciate you being on the show.
Appreciate you having me.
Oh, yeah.
Then do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And that is a wrap with Lonnie, folks. He knows his stuff. I worked for years doing marketing and promotions, hiring big agencies out of major cities, small agencies, and SEO firms. And I didn't get any smoke from Lonnie. I got a lot of smoke when I worked with some of the SEO firms we paid good money to get average results. So he shoots straight. You can't ask for more. He's got the experience. Get in touch with Lonnie, and I will have all of his information on our website at Close the Deal. Just search Close the Deal, the term, and watch what happens. It's going to come up right at the top. So I love the SEO game. I play with it myself a little bit. I'm an amateur at best. I'm a tiny little fraction of what Lonnie does. I appreciate you being here. You made it to the end. You went from disruptor to closer, and I appreciate you being here to the very, very end. Just do me that one favor. Hit the bell, like, subscribe, share this with others you think may need to hear this. And you know the drill. Be intentional and make today a great day. Bye-bye.